With training camp already starting and the preseason kicking off for the NFL, the NFC West is definitely not the best division in football anymore. But there are still teams like San Fran who were just in the NFC title game last year against the Philadelphia Eagles. And if it wasn't for a Brock Purdy injury to his throwing arm, I feel like the Niners would have given the Eagles a run for their money. Alongside San Fran, they'll have to defend their title against the Rams, who still have Aaron Donald and Matthew Stafford, and even the re-emerging Seattle Seahawks, who look like they're going to be a big-time player in this NFC conference. So, let's talk about it. San Francisco last season had the beginning of something special in their hands as they started quarterback Brock Purdy against the Dolphins in Week 13. And since then, Purdy has gone on to go undefeated for the rest of the 2022 season, toppling teams like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers led by Tom Brady and the Seahawks in Seattle in his first two starts. He was looking like potentially one of the best stories in sports history as he was the last pick in the 2022 NFL Draft. Mr. Irrelevant became Mr. NFC West champ and went on to play in the NFC Championship game. Unfortunately though, he did suffer an elbow injury in his throwing arm in the first drive that disabled his ability to throw the ball for the rest of the game, and was ultimately why the 49ers lost, because they didn't have another guy to put in, as Purdy was the 49ers' last option at the quarterback spot. Though with the news that was just released a couple weeks ago, Brock Purdy is free and able to practice with the team without limitations. And now that's tremendous news all across the board, especially for the 49ers, as that offense looked electrifying with Purdy there and improved everyone's game, including all-pro tight end George Kittle, where his catches per game improved from 4 to 6 catches after Week 13, along with Kittle scoring 7 touchdowns in the last 4 weeks of the season. At the running back spot, Christian McCaffrey, after coming in from Carolina, did well initially, but after Purdy started, McCaffrey's rushing numbers skyrocketed at the end of the season, having 300-plus yard games in the last 5 weeks. Wide receiver Brandon Ayuk himself is even looking like a potential number 1 receiver for them this upcoming season, as he's coming off his first 1,000-yard season and going into a contract year, along with the fact that Deebo Samuel is coming off an injury-riddled season as he missed 5 weeks due to a hamstring injury. But when Deebo Samuel is on the field, he's one of the most versatile players in the league, with his ability to play significant snaps at both wide receiver and running back positions last season. Last year, he still had 864 total yards with 2 receiving and 3 rushing touchdowns. The only worry I have for the offense is the fact that their right tackle, Big Mike McGlinchey, signed a massive 5-year, $87 million contract to Denver to protect Russell Wilson, and losing a big veteran piece from that offensive line group that really makes the offense work is going to be a big blow to them. But they still have, in my opinion, the best offensive lineman currently protecting Brock's blind side with Trent Williams. The NFL's number 1 defense this offseason did lose some pieces, but also gained some great ones as well, as they did lose safety Jimmy Ward, who had 3 picks and 6 pass deflections last season, along with defensive linemen Samson Ubakam and Charles Omenihu, who combined together for 9.5 sacks last year. Though San Francisco signed veteran defensive tackle Javon Hargrave to a 4-year, $84 million contract coming from the Philadelphia Eagles, having his best season in 2022, having 11 sacks and 10 tackles for loss. The defense is still riddled with talent though all around, as they have 3 first-team All-Pro Pro Bowlers from 2022, starting at the safety spot with the young player Talanoa Hufanga coming off a 5-pick season, making crazy plays for the Niners defense. Then at the linebacker spot, they have Fred Warner still in an already good linebacking group. Warner this season led his team in tackles and was the field general for that team. And lastly, on the D-line, Nick Bosa is still one of the league's best pass rushers after sacking the quarterbacks around the league 18 times, which was number 1 in the league. After a career season like Bosa had, he rightfully deserves a new contract, which puts the Niners in a tough spot with Bosa sitting out of practice, forcing the hand of the organization. The opposite, though, could be said for the Arizona Cardinals, as their team is looking to struggle a lot this upcoming season, mainly for who they lost this offseason after the meltdown of the 2022 season, ending with Kyler Murray tearing his ACL in December against the New England Patriots. though they were already 4-9 when the injury happened in Week 14. Soon after the season, the Cardinals took blow after blow, starting with the retirement of their future Hall of Famer J.J. Watt, concluding his career having 12.5 sacks in his last season, which led the Arizona's defensive line. And then all the news and drama surrounded DeAndre Hopkins and him wanting to leave Arizona, which made sense because he wants to win a championship now, and the Cardinals are definitely not that with Kyler being out too. So Arizona would release him after not finding any trade options, so the Cardinals basically got nothing out of that.
Especially after DeAndre Hopkins just signed a 2-year deal with the Titans.
Other than that, the offense doesn't look too crazy by any means, with their best player being running back James Conner, who had near 800 yards and 7 touchdowns last year, along with wide receiver Marquise Brown, who was the second best receiver, having 700 receiving yards. The defense of Arizona is also hitting a wall this season too, as not only with the loss of J.J. Watt, but as well on the D-line, defensive end Zach Allen signed a 3-year deal to play in Denver after having a 5.5 sacks year for Arizona. And while safety Budda Baker is still in the secondary for them, he's going to have to carry the defense even more after they also lost cornerback Byron Murphy, signing a 2-year, $17.5 million contract, taking his talents up north to play for the Vikings. So this season is looking to be a development year for some younger players like Isaiah Simmons at the linebacker spot after having 2 picks and 99 tackles last season. But without Murray playing this year, I don't see them winning at all. Maybe 3 to 4 wins, maybe. They're looking as bad as my John Ross take for the Chiefs a couple weeks ago. Now, the Rams this upcoming season are in a very interesting spot in the NFC West because they are definitely not the best by any means, though they aren't what they used to be 2 years ago either, especially after losing a massive haul of players this offseason, including the likes of Jalen Ramsey, OBJ, Baker Mayfield, Bobby Wagner, Leonard Floyd, Taylor Rapp, and many more. And with each of those players, they played a pretty key role for the squad, whether it was for one season, like Bobby Wagner having 140 tackles and 6 sacks at the age of 32, or even Jalen Ramsey still being regarded as one of the top cornerbacks in the league since signing there from Jacksonville. The Rams are still a competitive team with their 2 leaders on that squad, the first being the quarterback Matthew Stafford. Matt last year had a pretty down season, only playing 9 games due to a couple of injuries, including a spinal contusion and a lingering elbow issue. Though in those 9 games, he did throw for over 2,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 8 picks. To be fair though, he did have a pretty rough offensive line to work with since Andrew Whitworth did retire the year prior. And as the offense stands right now, that is still a glaring issue for this team. As everywhere else, you do see some talent still remaining, like wide receiver Cooper Kupp, still there after in 2021, having the triple crown and almost 2,000 receiving yards. This NFL draft, though, the Rams did draft center Steve Avila from TCU with the 36th overall pick, the closest they've been to a first rounder since the 2016 draft. And hopefully Avila can develop to improve that offensive line unit. And then that other leader I was talking about earlier is possibly still the best football player on the planet right now, as I'm talking about number 99, Aaron Donald. Aaron, since entering the league in 2014, has absolutely terrorized quarterbacks and humiliated offensive lines to the point where he's been doubled or triple teamed majority of the season, let alone a game. Because with not only his football smarts ability to swim around you, rip through you, or even bull rush you into the ground to make the play, but also his athleticism and the speed he moves his hands as a 280-pound lineman is absolutely insane. What he does is nothing short of greatness, and he's already undoubtedly a first ballot Hall of Famer in my eyes. And every year this man stays in the NFL, every year I'm worried for my Seahawks because I've watched this guy absolutely just terrorize our team ever since he came in. And speaking of which, I personally don't see why the Seattle Seahawks won't be the NFC West champs this season. Because last year when everyone thought that they would be the worst team in the league with Russ being out of town, Geno stepped in and said,
"Yeah, they wrote me off. I ain't right back though. That's the problem. I ain't right back. Let's go."
And since then, he's played lights out football, throwing for a Seattle record 4,282 passing yards. He led the NFL in completion percentage, as well as throwing for 30 touchdowns with 12 interceptions.
And with all that, he ended up earning a Pro Bowl nod, winning Comeback Player of the Year, and earning a 3-year contract worth $105 million. But it wasn't just Geno, of course, because the rest of that offense last year definitely balled out, starting with the should-have-been Offensive Rookie of the Year last season, Kenneth Walker III, as he blew the doors open for Seattle's rushing attack, rushing for just over 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns. And just to put that into perspective, we haven't had an 1,000-yard rusher since the 2019 season with Chris Carson, who's out of the league right now. Making the running lanes up front and protecting Geno Smith back there, we have the great potential for the offensive line with Abraham Lucas and Charles Cross at the tackle spots, along with Damian Lewis at the guard position. And then when you're looking out wide, you got DK and Tyler Lockett, who both held their own as usual, as that combo both had 1,000 yards receiving this last year. Nothing different though, as DK and Tyler Lockett both had over 1,000 or near 1,000 yards every year since 2019. One of the top wide receiver duos in the NFL. Adding to that group, the Seahawks drafted Jackson Smith and Jigba out of Ohio State with their second pick in the first round. In his sophomore year in 2021, he had 1,600 receiving yards, which was number 1 in the Big Ten, as well as 9 receiving touchdowns. Though his junior year would be cut to only 3 games at the beginning of the season, as he battled with a hamstring injury, keeping him out the rest of the year. Even then, he performed well at the combine to end up getting selected by Seattle, and I couldn't be more excited to see him play under Tyler Lockett's wing and learn how to properly take care of himself as a pro. Then on the defensive side, the Seahawks' success was really surrounded by the secondary of Seattle, starting with the other should-have-been Defensive Rookie of the Year last season, Tariq Woolen. Woolen, I think, was robbed from the award, as he led the league in picks with 6, as well as having 3 fumble recoveries. But sure, Gardner had, I guess, 4 more pass deflections and 12 more tackles, so that makes him Defensive Rookie, I guess. If someone can explain that to me in the comments, that would be helpful. Thank you. In the draft, Seattle, with their first round selection, they took cornerback Devin Witherspoon from Illinois, who had 3 interceptions and 14 pass deflections in 2022. Behind them in the safety spot, they already have Quandre Diggs, who had 4 picks last year, as well as Jamal Adams.
Jamal Adams, I'm the best in the nation.
Coming back from an ACL injury, bringing his hard-hitting playmaking ability. And even adding Julian Love from New York is going to add even more depth and star power. Speaking of power, the linebacker spot was led by Jordan Brooks last season, having 161 tackles and 5 pass deflections, being all over the field getting to the ball. The Seahawks decided to bring back longtime Seahawk legend Bobby Wagner after a 1-year stint in LA where he still had 140 tackles at the age of 32. He's going to step in right away and continue to dominate like he did previously for the Hawks when he was mentoring Jordan Brooks. The Seahawks also decided to bring in linebacker Devin Bush from Pittsburgh, as he has struggled to try to produce the same numbers he had his rookie year, where he was in the running for Defensive Rookie of the Year in 2019. With his speed and freakish athleticism, he's gonna be a good tackling fit for the defense. The only real group I'm worried about is the defensive line, as they still could not get to the passer last season, other than Darrell Taylor and Uchenna Nwasu having 9.5 sacks each. Though up front, they did bring in Draymond Jones from Denver on a 3-year, $51 million contract, as well as former Seahawk Jarran Reed. All in all, the NFC West is looking to be a 2-headed monster this upcoming season, so let's rank the teams. Starting with Arizona, as I said earlier, they have probably the worst roster in the division and definitely won't get far without their franchise quarterback Kyler Murray. So I predict they'll be last in the division and having maybe 3 to 4 wins. Then the Rams are going to be in third, with them not only losing a haul of players, but they did not even upgrade their horrendous offensive line really that much from last season. Fitting in second place, I'm taking the 49ers. Now the Niners have a good squad, but they did lose some pieces like Mike McGlinchey and Jimmy Ward. And the only reason why I say they won't win is because they didn't have as good of an offseason like Seattle, regrouping and bringing in new pieces. Which leaves me with the Seattle Seahawks, as they not only have the best all-around squad in the division, but also the organization did the most to provide and support their main pieces like Geno Smith by giving him another target and some protection, or even Jordan Brooks by bringing back Bobby Wagner to help him at the linebacker spot. So this upcoming season, I see the Hawks soaring to get 10 and 11 wins and winning the NFC West. Well, that's another divisional preview as we get closer and closer to regular season football every single day. Thank you for watching the video today. I haven't been this excited as a Seahawks fan since the 2019 season with Russell Wilson, and it feels good to know that Seattle is going to hopefully get back into playoff contention again. If you liked today's video, make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons today. And of course, as always, get the conversation going in the comments, which, by the way, thank you for those comments the last few videos. Anyways, thank you for watching again, and have a good one.